Hi guys, welcome to SMI of Canada. Today we'll be considering how to complete our forms for a temporary resident visa application. And just before me is IMM 5484E, and that's the checklist for your temporary resident visa application. Okay, so first you will complete the IMM 5257. That's the TRV form, and I will show you how to complete it shortly. So this checklist, you're going to have to tick all the other documents that you have. So you'll be completing family information form as well. I showed um, in the video for completing your study permit application forms, I explained in detail how to complete the family information form. So you want to refer to that video. I will link it in the description box. And then if you are in a common law union, you want to complete this form IMM 5409, and that's the statutory declaration of common law. So if you're using an agent or you're using a lawyer or something, you want to complete the IMM 5476, and that's the use of a representative form. And finally, if you are not the one completing the forms yourself, and you are not the one that will make the application yourself, you want to complete the authority to release personal information to a designated individual form. That's 5475. So I'm just assuming that all of this applies to you. So you make sure you tick all the boxes. But if just tick the one that applies to you basically. And then there is the document checklist. Talks about the fee, the money you hold along, or if you're doing online application, you want to have your credit card or your Visa or MasterCard, photocopy of your data page, 2 photos, and they've given the specific requirement for the photos. And then you want to have a proof of financial support. All of these things, I explained it thoroughly in my video on how to apply for a visit visa. So I'll also link it in the description box and you can check it out for more detailed information. So if you are applying for a parent or grandparent super visa, so the difference between super visa and visit visa is that super visa is strictly for parents and grandparents of Canadian citizens and permanent residents. But if you are just like a student or a worker, then you have to choose the visit visa to bring your parent or your family member. So all this section applies to those applying for a super visa. So make sure you tick it appropriately. So we are going to dive straight into the form, and that's IMM 5257. All these forms can be gotten from CIC website. If you search IMM 5257E, make sure you search by the name and number of the form. It will pop up on Google and you can download the PDF. Make sure that you download it and don't try to open it straight from the web, because if you do, it won't open, like you have problems opening it. I always use Adobe Acrobat for opening my forms, my IMM forms, and I've never had any problem. I'm not sure about other readers, but Adobe Acrobat surely works for it. So we're going to start. So we start with UCI. UCI is for those of you guys that have applied before to Canada, whatever it might be, maybe for studying, for even if it's not for visiting, you have a UCI already. That's the unique client identifier. So just go back to your application or your permit or whatever it is that you have and just get this from that document. But for you people that are just applying for the very first time to Canada, leave this place blank. So you want to choose what language you want your service in, English or in French. So I'm choosing English, and then you want to click the type of visa you want to apply for. There are two types of visit visa. There's the transit visa that you use to transit through the country when it's not your final destination. So maybe you're traveling to Brazil and it's just an example and you're passing through Canada, then you need a transit visa. But in this case, I'm assuming you're applying for a visit visa to visit. And here you have the full name. So just write your last name here. So let's say the person's last name is Go. And then here you want to write your name. Given name comprises of the your um, first name and your middle name. So let's say this person is Jane Jill Doe. So she will put in Jane Jill Doe. Make sure you write it exactly as it's given in the passport. And here, the next section, if you have a nickname or a maiden name, so if you've used a name before using this your name, then you click yes. So in my case, for instance, I'm married and I changed my name, my last name. I changed it from my maiden name to my married name. So this is just to give the officer all the names that you have so that they don't get surprised when they see it in a document or something. So just write the name that you change. So if it's your last name, then write the name. And then if your given name is still the same, then write what it is. Okay, so we move on to the sex. So the sex, she's female, and here you put your date of birth. Here you put your place of birth. So let's say she was born in Cape Town. Remember, this is place of birth, so where you were born. Let's say she was born in Cape Town, and here is your country of birth. Don't mix it up with country of residence. It's different. So here is country of birth. So let's say she was born in South Africa. So let's say her citizenship is, although she was born in South Africa and everything, let's say the citizenship she wants to she has dual citizenship, South African and Brazil. She's Brazilian as well. For the purpose of this application, she wants to use a Brazilian citizenship. Okay, so we move to residence. So where are you living? So just state your country of residence. She's living in Angola currently, and currently she's visiting there. So she's going to write from when she started visiting to when. So if she's still there, it will be today's date. And then the next one is previous countries that you visited. Take note that these are countries that you spent over 6 months in. So you want to list the countries. So if you visited before, you say yes. And then here you list the country. So let's say you went to Afghanistan as a worker. So you put worker and then you put from when to when. And let's say you've also visited Algeria and that you visited Algeria as a student. So you put that and the date of visit. Now we'll move to the next one. Country or territory where you're applying from. So if this is different from where you currently live, click nope. But if it's the same, then click yes. So if you click yes, it's going to blur it out because you've already written your country of residence above. So just be sure to click the right thing. Here is your marital status. You want to say if you're single, common law, married. Let's say she's married. And here you will put your marriage, the day you got married. So let's say she got married on the 1st of June 2022. And here she'll provide the name of her spouse, starting with the last name of her spouse and given names, which include the first name and the middle name, if there is a middle name, exactly as it's written in the passport. And then we'll move to the next page. So here it's asking if you've previously been married or in a common law relationship. So that means, have you been divorced before this your current marriage? If yes, click yes. And if you've been previously married or previously in a common law, you want to put the name of that person you were previously married to. So let's say Jane was previously married to someone named Salvador and the given name. So just make sure you just write it correctly. And date of birth, date of birth of that person, the month and the day and the year, and what type of relationship. Were you guys married? Was it common law? And then from when to when. And then we move to language. So for language, this here you put in your native language. So let's say our native language is Cuba. And can you communicate in English or French or whatever? Choose whichever applies. Um, and then we move to this question. Have you ever taken a designated testing agency test? So if yes, click yes. If no, click no. And then for the passport here, you want to be very careful. Carefully put in your passport number and then your country of issue. You can find this data on your data page, on the data page of your passport, the issue date and as well as the expiry date. Make sure you put all of these carefully. And then if you are from Taiwan, click yes or no if it applies to you. If you are from Israel, click yes or no if it applies to you. And then we'll move to national identity document. Do you have a national identity document? Yes or no? If yes, put in the document number carefully, as of course the country of issue. You can see all of this from your document and the issue date as well as the expiry date. If you are a US permanent resident, then here you should click yes and put in your document number and the expiry date of the document. Now we move to contact information. Here, you want to put in your mailing address. So if it's an apartment, put in the apartment number, the PO box, your street number, your street name, your city or town, country or residence, province, postal code, and district. Now, if you have a residential address that is different from your mailing address, you want to click no, that is not the same, and then put in your residential address. But if it's the same, click yes, and then it will blur it out so you don't have to rewrite it again. And now for telephone number, do you have a Canadian telephone number or US? If not, click other. And here you make sure you put in the type. So let's say it's your phone line, so cellular. Put in your country code. Be careful with this. If you are not sure, you can look it up. So you put that in, and I put the number here. And if you have an extension, put it here. If you have another line that it can reach you on, fill it appropriately. And then we move to the email address, which is very, very, very important. If you put an address here, they won't bother sending you anything by mail. So make sure that this is correct. It's important, so important. You double check and triple check it. And make sure that your fax is correct. If you don't have, it's optional. And then we move to detail of visit to Canada. So here, take a look at the purpose of visit. There are various purposes there. Business, tourism, short-term studies. As I explained in visit visa application, there are many things to consider. So make sure that whatever you choose aligns properly with what you wrote in your statement of purpose. If you are going for business, click business. If you don't find anyone that really aligns with what you want to go and do, then click other and describe what you're going to do in the other box. So write how long you're planning to stay. So if you don't have a definite time, you can write 6 months because you can stay with a visit visa for up to 6 months at a time. Don't write more than 6 months because it means you are planning to overstay. Then if you have a specific time frame, for instance, if you're going for business or if you're going for a conference or a short-term project or something, write the start of your project and the end of your project, or write the start of the conference and the end of the conference. Remember, this really doesn't matter because at the end of the day, it's to your discretion how long you stay. Just make sure that you don't stay more than 6 months, except if you have a super visa. A super visa qualifies you to stay for up to 2 years at a time. So here you write the funds available for your stay and make sure you write all the amount you have. Okay. Now, here you write the name, address, and relationship of any person or institution you want to visit. So if you are going to work in an institution or organization, write the name of the organization. If it's a conference, write the name and address of the conference where it will hold. If it's a person or your friend or your family member, write the name, write their relationship to you, write the address. And if it's more than one person, for instance, if you are going to visit your son and his wife, so write your son and then here write daughter-in-law. So we move to education. Here they just need your highest level of post-secondary education. So no secondary school education here, please. So if you have, say yes, and then write the name, just the highest. So if it's a master's, write from when to when, field of study, school name or facility name if it's not a school, if it's apprenticeship or something, and then city and then country of residence. And then we move to employment, and this is where people make mistakes. So be careful that and follow exactly as I'm going to describe. So you start with your current activity or occupation. Here you want to put in notes that it could be schooling, it could be work, it could be anything. That's why they said activity. So you must make sure that it is seamless. There must be no gap. So let's assume you're starting from today's date. So here will be from your current activity. When did it start? Let's say it started 2019. Um, March, and then to today's date. So make sure this field is today's date. Very, very important. There's no day there, so just the month and year. So June 2022, because that's the day I'm filling this application form. So here you put what you're currently doing during this period, which is your current activity or occupation, the name of the employer, facility or company, the city or town, the country of residence, and the province or state. Then you will move to the next one. And for the next one, you have the previous activity or occupation. And that's the activity or the job or whatever you were doing before your current job. Your form should be the beginning of your previous activity. So let's say you started your previous activity 2012 March, and it should end at the beginning of your current activity, so 2019 March. So if you look at it, you see that this activity is ending on March 2019, and your current activity beginning March 2019. There is no gap. Very important that there should be no gap. And also say the previous activity, company, city, country. Okay. And now we'll move to the last one. This should be the least recent, so the oldest out of the three of them. And make sure that this starts from exactly 10 years. Okay, so sorry, that cannot be. Let's say this started from 2015. Okay, so make sure it ends at the beginning of the previous one. So that's 2015 March. So if you look at it, you see that it started from 2012 June, and that's 10 years from today's date. And then it ended 2015 March, and then the next one started 2015 March, and ended 2019 March, and then the next one started 2019 March, and ended 2022 June. So there has to be like a seamless progression. And also for those of you guys that did more than 3 activities, we see that on this page you can only put 3 activities. So you can combine them. So for instance, between 2015 and 2019, if you were a student and then you studied for a year, and after you studied, you became a teacher, so just add it together this way, and then just put the facility, the school name. So let's say the school is George College. You studied there, and then after you finished, you began to teach at St. Louis. So just merge it together like that, because there are only 3 fields for this portion. So the highlight of this is that make sure that the end and the beginning is exactly 10 years, and make sure there is no gap. So wherever this starts is where this should end. Okay, so we move to the next one, and that's the usual questions that Canada asks. So make sure you read it carefully and click it if it applies. Have you ever had tuberculosis, or have you been in contact with someone that had tuberculosis? Let's say no. Do you have a physical or mental issue that will require social health service? Let's say no. If it's yes, then you have to provide details, even if it's a family member. Now, have you ever remained beyond the validity of your status? Attended school without authorization or worked without authorization in Canada? Answer as need be. Okay, so have you ever been refused a visa? Please be very careful here and make sure to answer this correctly. It doesn't mean that you'll be denied again, but if you don't answer correctly, they can see it, and that's when you'll be denied based on misrepresentation. So let's say you've never been refused a visa before. Note that I said or any other country. So they share information with several countries. So be very careful to answer this correctly. Have you previously applied to enter or remain in Canada? If yes, yes. If no, no. And if yes, then you have to provide the details. Maybe you applied for a study permit or you applied for a work permit. Okay, so have you ever committed crime or whatever? If yes, if no, click no. Did you serve in the military? Read this very carefully. If it applies to you, click yes. And if you click yes, you have to provide details. And have you been a member of any political party that have engaged in violence? If yes, have you ever desecrated or looted a religious building? Just read it carefully. If yes, then you have to click yes. And then here you click if you want CIC to contact you for surveys. You don't have to. It's just optional. It doesn't impact your application. And then here you sign. So if it's paper application, you print this off and then you sign with your pen or something. Sign by hand and put the date. If it's online application, you don't have to sign because you are still going to sign before your application is transmitted online. I know that people used to have difficulty signing this, so you don't have to. Just put in the date and validate it here. So when you validate it, it brings out some set of barcodes, and that's what the officer uses to read your application. Please make sure to always validate your form. If you go back and edit this form after validating, you need to validate again. So be careful to always validate it before you submit. And that's all I want to show you. I hope I have clearly illustrated how to complete your forms. Thank you so much for tuning into my channel. If you like what I put out there, remember to subscribe and click the notification bell, and also to like. Until the next time, see you. Bye bye.